Welcome to the 2022 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me once again on this Sunday weekend edition, April 10th, 2022. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot, of course, hyperinflation, consumer debt, and some mandatory preps that you must have, basic preps that you must have, courtesy of Prepper Nation. We're also going to be talking about the housing market and the chances of a housing market crash before we get into the fall season of 2022, before the midterms, that is, elections, that is. So we're going to be talking about all of that. Please make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, family, neighbors to subscribe to Preach to Me. This is the 100% pure, unadulterated truth channel as best as we can without getting banned by the authorities that be, and we appreciate your support. So right now, let's get right into it. Inflation continues to darken the mood of the U.S. economy here. Many cities, many counties, municipalities, townships, states are finding ways to raise taxes on gas taxes, property taxes, food prices. Obviously, utility and energy costs have been rising, and so even the higher income consumers, Americans, are cutting back on purchases here. So CNBC.com, courtesy of CNBC.com. Inflation bites, America's mood darkens. Higher income consumers are cutting back too. No surprise there. Um, 2/3 of the U.S. economy is consumption. That means we buy and sell goods. We basically consume our goods and services, right? So because of that, when there's a cutback, that affects everyone in the economic cycle, as there's only so much money to go around in the money supply. So American consumers are already cutting back on spending, according to a new CNBC survey. Now we've seen this for months, guys. Even before the new year, we've seen this really in the last before the pandemic, pre-pandemic, the first year before the pre-pandemic, the last normal year, quote unquote, we had in terms of before the pandemic, 2019. We've seen that consumers have been cutting back. Americans have been cutting back their spending and finding ways to save, which is smart. So for many living paycheck to paycheck, this is not a surprise as inflation rises and COVID stimulus savings decline. That's the key word there. And it's unfortunate that American savings are declining. Because now the interest rates are beginning to rise. Maybe we can actually get some money on that. Besides earning 1 penny a month on our savings, maybe if interest rates get up to what, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10%, 15%, which we know they're not going to be that high with Paul Volcker style. But if they do, hey, that would be a great step. So the survey also shows that higher income consumers are showing signs of financial stress, have been cutting back on dining out, travel, vacations, and cars. Well, that's everybody. When you go to these places to eat out, whether it's fast food or upscale dining, for two people, you're talking $50 to $100. Some of these fast food places, even you're talking for two people, you're talking $25, $30 now. It's gone up tremendously in the last 6 months. Vacation prices have gone up. Hotels are trying to make up for the pandemic losses. Cruise ships, all that, cruises are trying to make up for their losses. Airlines are making up for their losses. And what about travel? How is that going to be affecting these malls that are continuing to shut down? Not just in dilapidated areas of the suburbs and hinterlands. They're shutting down in prime areas and prime real estate areas. A lot of these Westfield malls, have shut down in California, I've heard, and some of these prime real estate areas because the space is no longer needed. People are shopping online, and not just at Amazon. There are other stores that are, of course, converted to online, as you know, Walmart and other facilities. So 60% of consumers living paycheck to paycheck. The number is actually higher than that. It's more like 80% of consumers living paycheck to paycheck. It's not a surprise that spending cutbacks have cut back here. So we look at here, and the prices. They did a survey saying that the prices, do you consider higher prices will persist? In other words, do you think this inflation is going to persist? And you look at the numbers here at the chart, and those with medium and higher incomes believe that this will persist. The inflation will persist through the fall, and I believe that too as well. There's no way you can just all of a sudden pump the brakes on this economy, and the Fed can't escape the need for tough policies to combat inflation. This says Kamal Sir Kamar. He's an analyst with Goldman Sachs. So the bottom line is that the prices are here to stay. Inflation is here to stay. So why would you buy a car now when the prices are at a high bubble? Why would you take that vacation when hotel and car rentals and everything is at the maximum bubble it can be? When you know that you can wait maybe another 6 months and you can get a better deal on some of this stuff as we're at the height. So top U.S. bank regulator questions long-term sustainability of crypto. Um, Now, a lot of people talk about crypto. This is the acting controller of currency, Michael Hsu, compares cryptocurrencies to financial derivatives. He's saying that has the derivative market like Goldman, I'm sorry, like Credit Suisse, and the derivative market of Deutsche Bank. He's comparing that debt load to cryptos. They have the same risk load. Well, the thing is that cryptos are here to stay. Everyone said that Bitcoin was going to zero, and we know that it did not go to zero. Yes, it took a hit; it was down to 40,000 or 30,000 or whatever, but it's not going to zero. Just like people say gold and silver is not going to zero, that is also true. Unfortunately, we're moving toward a digital economy and an automation economy. As you know, robots have been replacing jobs on the factories in the Midwest for years now, and not just the Midwest, but other places too, out west and in the Southeast too, in Alabama and places. Yes, they have factories in Alabama that build Mercedes and all of that cars, but there's a lot of robots inside of there that you don't know that are building these cars and other things. So crypto is here to stay. Digital assets, if you can get into it safely, get some, have some, be diversified. I'm not one against crypto because I know that it's something that is going to be adopted by the majority of our banking system and those outside the banking system. You have to remember those in Venezuela used cryptos when the banking system was totally collapsed, everything was collapsed. So they do have a purpose, kind of like digital barterability. Think of it as that, okay? And so everybody says, what about when the lights go out and the power goes out? Well, yeah, that is true. But there's still ways that people have things off grid. You can have off grid key or off grid, like kind of looks like a flash drive or whatever. So it really wouldn't matter if the power goes out in that instance. So U.S. consumer debt is another thing that's going to be crucial with this housing market. U.S. consumer debt jumped by 40 billion in February. CNN business reports. Now we know the debt load has been growing. I've been showing you guys the debt clock as it's been rising. Okay, we've been above $30 trillion national debt right now. Okay. And so revolving credit cards jumped up by 20.7 billion to 1.1 trillion. Student loans, as you know, has been extended by President Biden's administration through August. So that's great news. And the interest rates, it doesn't accrue interest as during this period of a forbearance, if you will. So that's great news. If you can make payments, go ahead. If you cannot, don't worry about it. Like I said, because hyperinflation is here to stay, and it's going to get easier to pay down that debt as the currency continues to hyperinflate away, and later on. So don't be too worried about it. Now, Americans have been challenged with rapid pace of price increases everywhere, from the grocery store to the gas station. Year over year, inflation hadn't been as high since 1982, 40 years ago, and consumer spending is what's going to cause a dip in this housing market, because you have to remember, once Americans, I should say, can't spend money off the credit card and other things, what's going to happen is that's going to dry up, and that's going to affect the housing market. That affects how much you can borrow for a mortgage, because your debt load is obviously taken into account. Now they have extended mortgages to 40 years, I believe. They've done a 40-year mortgage, and a lot of elderly folks are taking out reverse mortgages on HELOCs on their homes that are paid for, or almost close to being paid for, I should say, are paid for in some cases. They're taking out a reverse mortgage on that. And so you have to look at that too as debt. So we have this all coming out of headwinds. Some people are saying that the housing market is not going to fall because there's low inventory, right? Low supply, but that's artificially low. Remember, the banks have a lot more homes on the market that are foreclosed that they're not listing in the MLS or on the real estate, whatever, database. They're keeping them on the books because they know that the real crash is coming soon. So once all that floods the inventory, the prices will have to come down naturally, because interest rates, somebody's not going to buy, they're not going to get a mortgage or buy a jumbo loan when the interest rate is what, 8% by the end of this year, 9%. Nobody's going to take that risk, and have to deal with those high payments and high taxes. Property taxes are going to go up. If that's true, it's either going to be the property taxes are going to go up to and county taxes are going to go up tremendously high, because the bubble is going to be inflated so much, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the housing prices are going to come down, and that's going to correct by about 25%. Not a full collapse, but about 25% collapse, just enough to slow the market down. So, guys, 10 preps that you need right now, regardless of when SHTF happens. You need to have this 10 preps. Whether you have an EMP, a slow affair, this is courtesy of survivalcivilian.com. Thank you. This is the preps you need. Obviously, water is the first prep. You may not be able to get a 55-gallon water barrel. You may not have storage like that, but everyone can store water, whether it's bottled water or through a filtered water, through a Berkey or through a Brita filter. or through just storing up bottled water in your closet. Um, and getting close to a pallet of it or so. You're gonna need water because you can only last 3 days without water. You can last a whole lot longer without food. But water is a pretty much essentially for the lifeblood. See, and this is what many people are not thinking about when they're picking out property, or any type of tiny house or any type of system that you plan on living. You need to make sure your water system is straight. So that you can grow things, grow your own food, and have water to bathe, to survive, eat, and do all the things you need to do. Obviously, you can get iodine tablets. Some people use that. You can get live straws. Many people have that, and stuff like that. Rain collection barrels. People have that as well. Like I said, bird keys. Another thing you need is light sources. Tactical flashlights are okay. I prefer those lanterns, that you can portable lanterns that you can hold, or I prefer headlamps. Those headlamps where you see those cavers have. They sell those on Amazon. You can get a headlamps, a pack, a 5 pack, a 6 pack for less than $15. That way your hands are free. But you can use these tactical lights. Are good. They're good for self-defense. They're good for lights. But like I said, the solar power lanterns work great. They also contain batteries at the bottom that you can put in there too. And those work great. And they're bright. They're like LED, and they don't make too much light noise or sound. So that's great. You also need a camping stove, a cheap 2 burner propane camping stove. Um, I got a folding camping stove that uses these fuel tablets. Actually, that's it's actually better. I don't really deal with propane too much, or butane. Those butane Coleman camping stoves. Some people like them. You can do that, but you can get a wood stove. But there come times when kerosene and things of that nature, propane may be hard to find, as the prices continue to go up. So a wood stove, Dutch oven, um, a Dutch oven, a rocket stove, may be good. But I would just use a basic folding stove that uses those fuel tablets, or sternos. You can get sternos, that helps too. Something that uses sternos, a folding stove that you can put a sterno underneath, and that can heat up basic things as well. So those are all shelf-stable food. Okay, this is number 4. Obviously, you want canned meats or canned vegetables, for any matter if you're vegan. Tuna, rice, egg noodles, you notice these things are going very fast in a lot of the stores. But you want to make sure you have these things at home. At least 3 months, 2 to 3 months of canned goods, no matter what you like to eat. Trail mix as well. Communication, your comms plan is very important. You should have these walkie-talkies. Some of you guys are ham radio operators, but you need walkie-talkies for close range, under 5 miles or under 3 miles plans for your family, like when you go hiking. Make sure you have these walkie-talkies and batteries stocked up, as well. So your comms have got to be in hand too. And then obviously you need a safe, obviously to keep your security safe, and you need a safe, fireproof safe for your personal documents. This can either be in you can either have external hard drives for a lot of your paperwork on there, flash drives, your cash, you want to keep a cash belt on you, and skill inventory. And then it goes on to self-defense and security. Obviously, this is very important, guys. You can see the security that you may need. It's dependent upon where you're located at, but at the minimum, you need something to defend yourself, to defend your household, and stuff like that. So you guys pretty much know what that is, and most of you guys have already taken advantage of that, while you can, because that's selling out very fast in a lot of places, as you know. First aid kit. Obviously, this is very important. A tourniquet. You want to have a bug out bag, because you may have to bug out in your car until you can get back to your alternate location, duty location. So you want to have one in your car, a first aid kit. You want to have one in your household, and that includes, a mylar, a tent bag, a foldable tent bag, a compass, different things like that. You may not think about, even though you think it's on your phone, it could be, but your phone may be dead. Or may not be out of service in the area that you're into. Knowledge and training. You want to continue to update your training. You want to continue to practice a new skill each month, each quarter, and this is something that you want to continue to do. So now, this 10 mandatory preps, once again, that regardless you need to have of how things SHTF shakes out. Just want to mention that Dow futures this day is split for tomorrow. Dow futures is split. It shows Tesla forging a new entry here. Apple stock is doing relatively well. Most growth stocks are not. I have to mention, guys, that you notice that the Dow Jones has not risen above 35,000 points. If you remember 6 months ago, many people were thinking that 40,000 would be the cap, like the cap where everything was going to be gravy, and then it was all downhill from there. I think we've actually almost reached the peak of the Dow Jones and the S&P 500, and the Russell 2000 just now. I think we've reached the peak. It's 35,000, and you notice it hasn't risen that much higher than 35,000 since the beginning of the year. And so I believe it reached the peak of this bull run right now this year, and things are going to go downslide. As a matter of fact, um, there's a 50% chance that there's going to be a recession in the year 2023, in summer of 2023. Much people thinking as the yield curve is still inverting. I believe it's going to happen sooner than that, probably before Christmas and Thanksgiving. We're going to be talking about some kind of recessionary pressure, as the Fed continues to raise rates 50 basis points. Remember, they're raising it 50 basis points next month in May, and in June a 50 basis point rate increase, which is, it's going to be still be behind the curve because inflation is at 8.3%, 8.5%, and real inflation is at 17, 18, 20%. But so as long as the rate hikes don't catch up to inflation, we're still negative in terms of that. So it's not going to make a dent. But I'm just saying that if they continue to rise, then that means that these numbers here are going to continue to grow worse, and that we could be in a recession far sooner than 2023. Even though many people believe we're already in one, and I think that that's pretty much the way things are going too as well. So continue to stack, my friends. Continue to prepare. Thank you for listening. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless our country and our friends. We're very blessed to have made it this far, and to still have a roof over our heads, cars to drive, and all kind of things that we take for granted. This is a blessing. Even though things may look bleak, they're not as hopeless as you seem. God has our back, and we have each other's back, and we're going to make it through. So be blessed. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Get outside if you can, if it's not raining anywhere, anything like that, wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for listening. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.